Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Betsy Kenyon, the Director of Marketing here at Elevate Wealth Advisory. And part of my role here is to put together our monthly webinars. And we've been doing these since the pandemic when we couldn't meet in person. And we like to do educational webinars, educational meetings every month. And we realized that it's been almost 6 years since we visited this topic of cybersecurity. So we thought it was time to bring it back. Well, a lot of people are wondering why financial advisors want to talk about cybersecurity. And as many of you know, here at Elevate, we focus on comprehensive wealth management, which includes everything from tax planning to estate planning, but a big part of it is risk management. And one of the biggest risks to your wealth is the threat of identity theft or cybercrime. If successful, these threats could negatively impact your finances way worse than any bear market ever could. So think about this. Human error accounts for 95% of all identity theft and loss of money. And so while you can't stop a company from potentially losing your sensitive data, like if you go to the doctor and you might have your social security number or your credit card number compromised, you can take some practical steps to reduce the threats targeted at you. So today's session is going to teach you some behaviors to make your attack surface smaller and provide ways to identify attempts to access your money and your identity. Before I introduce our great guest speaker, I wanted to just point out at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box and a chat box. So if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, just put those in either of those places and we will make sure we get your questions answered. If for some reason we should run out of time, we'll make sure that we follow up with you directly. And then at the end of our webinar, we will be sending out a link to the recording of this video so you can share it with your friends or your family, anyone you think might benefit from the information. And then we'll also have some more information for you. So I would like to now introduce our guest speaker, Jared Hoffman, who is Managing Director at Focus Partners based in St. Louis, Missouri. Part of Jared's role includes educating firms and clients on best practices around cybersecurity with an emphasis on the behavioral aspect. Jared's also a member of InfraGard, which is a partnership between the FBI and the public-private sector created to share information and trends on cybercrime tactics and defenses. Jared last joined us almost 6 years ago for one of our very first webinars during the pandemic, so we're very happy to welcome him back today. Welcome, Jared.
Betsy, thanks for having me. I wish I could say things have gotten better in this landscape, but as many of you know, they have not. I'd say they've probably even gotten a little worse. So I appreciate everyone for participating today. This is really not going to be much about technology. I think technology can be intimidating. I myself am not good. I just needed help this weekend to get a Ring doorbell installed. Okay, I'm not the tech guy. Having software like antivirus software, that stuff is important. And if that's something you need help with, ask a family member who's done it, take it to a store. We're going to really be focusing on the behavioral aspect and the simple, easy, practical things that you could do literally in the next 24 hours to really shrink down your target size. And some of you, if you're on this webinar today, maybe you were like, I don't even know if I should attend, right? I'm not that good with technology. I want to lower your threshold a little bit by showing you. I think one of the big myths I see out there is, well, from an older generation, and therefore I'm not good at technology. I would say that is really probably one of the biggest myths that is out there. And I'm going to kind of prove that to you real quickly here. So here's some examples I've seen. Now here's a young guy. He clearly knows how to use technology, right? He's able to go out on the internet. He's able to take a picture, post it, include a little message about it. But he also thinks he could charge his phone by putting it in the microwave. So hopefully now you're thinking, if you have not done that, if you have not tried to charge your phone by putting it in the microwave, maybe you're feeling a little more intelligent right now when it comes to technology. This might be my favorite one. Again, this person knows how to use technology, right? They're out there, they're interacting, they're working with these different apps, but they also bought a 5-4 house number and they said they should have bought a 4 and a 5. So they're trying to sell those two numbers. This one was pretty recent. This was also one of my favorites. There was a total eclipse, I think it was a year ago or a couple of years ago. It was really awesome, actually. But someone went on Facebook. So again, they're interacting with technology and they wanted to see could the solar eclipse be moved to the weekend so kids would be at home and could enjoy it with their families. Okay, so these people, I call them the day walkers. They're out there amongst us, they're everywhere. Just because people are using technology, don't confuse that with wisdom and don't confuse youth with wisdom either when it comes to technology. The reason we hear about older generations being hit more with this is not has nothing to do with your intelligence or capability of interacting with technology. What it has to do with is you have something, if you're from an older generation, which I don't even know what an old generation is. I think an older generation is always someone 10 years older than you, right? But it has to do with the fact that older generations have money. And that's what these people are after. Your typical 20-year-old college kid or kid in their first job is not necessarily going to have a lot of money. Doesn't mean that they don't get targeted too, but they know that they can get a lot more money if they can hit people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, etc. Okay. Now, having said that, there's one exception to that, however, and that is when it comes to identity theft, the number one target of identity thieves is probably someone you care about, a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, godchild, etc. It's kids. Kids are easily the number one target for this. And the reason that kids are the number one target for identity theft is because they have something that most people do not have, perfectly pristine credit, because technically they don't even have credit. And therefore, no one's really checking it, right? Why would you be checking your 8-year-old's credit report? Well, it turns out you actually should, because identity thieves try to get a hold of a kid's credit, and they know if they can get a child's social security number and then use that to open up credit, the creditor on the other end has no way of knowing the age of that person. They don't know if that social security number belongs to a 7-month-old or a 77-year-old. What they can confirm is this a valid number? And if it's a 7 months old number, it could very well be a valid number. And now then they're going to use that and then open up new credit in that person's name. Um, there's some signs that this is happening. I think the biggest one that I see typically is when that child gets an offer in the mail for to open up credit, like with Visa, MasterCard, things like that. And it even seems kind of cute, right? You know, Billy's getting his first credit card offer at the age of 7. You're going to throw it in the garbage, right? But actually, that's kind of a warning sign that somebody has opened up credit in Billy's name, and now, of course, he's on other lists, so they want him to open up more credit, right? That's a warning sign. If you get a notice in postal mail from the IRS saying your child has already filed their tax return or they're part of another tax return, that means someone is using their social. If you get a job verification call or a debt collection agency calls and they need Sally, who's 2 years old, she's got $100,000 debt. Of course she doesn't, but she actually might in her name because someone is using her credit and trashing it. Okay. There are some things you can do to kind of prevent this and stop this. One of the first things you can do now, thanks to bipartisan legislation back in 2018, is you can now file a credit freeze for your child. That's the best thing you can do here. It's like kind of like the nuclear response, right? You're going to put a credit freeze in their name. When someone ever tries to open credit in their name, they're going to be stopped in their tracks. They're not going to be able to do it. There's other things you can do in the next 24 hours, like go ahead and run a credit report for your child. You should get nothing back. Nothing. If you get a credit report back and your son John has a great credit score, like of 790, that's not actually good. I mean, it's a good credit score, but he should not have a credit score. And that's telling you that someone is using credit in his name. I'd be really careful about giving out their social security number. I'm surprised how often we're asked for this when we don't need to be giving it out. I had to register my niece for softball. And on the form, it asked what's her name, her address, her number, phone number, things like that. What's her social security number? And I left that line blank. And I asked the guy at the registration desk, I said, hey, I'm going to leave her social off. Is there a reason you guys need that? He said, I don't know. We got this form online. So they weren't even sure why they were even asking for it. Okay. It's okay to question those types of things. But again, if you can go ahead and do that credit freeze for your kid, it's a little more involved than if you've done it for yourself because you have to show that you're the guardian for that child or the parent. That's the best gift you can give your kid because if this happens to a child, it can have long-term ramifications. I met a couple a few years ago. I did not realize how rampant this was, and said you should do more research and spend a little more time in this subject. They used to spend like 20 seconds on it. Their child went to buy his first car, got denied credit. He had $800,000 and 20 credit cards in his name. And they said it took about a year and a half to unwind. And by a year and a half of unwinding, that means a lot of time on the phone, getting transferred to different departments, having to prove that no, it was identity theft, things like that. So imagine the impact that could have on your kid if they get denied getting an apartment, getting a scholarship to a school, things like that could really have an impact. So highly recommend freeze your credit. We will send out instructions on how you can go ahead and do that. After today's webinar, you'll be receiving that from Betsy and her team, and we're happy to help you with that. Unfortunately, the other big victim here is taxpayers. U.S. taxpayers are a huge target because it's not that hard to commit tax fraud in this country. You need a name, a number, an address, and a social. And if you get a hold of somebody's social, and that's why these big data breaches are kind of concerning, they're going to use that to file early in January. The IRS advice on this is in my opinion, pretty bad. They say, well, you should file in January. Most of us don't have that luxury to be able to file our taxes in January. And the reason they'll do that is because they're going to file online, knowing that that return has to get paid out within 30 days. And the IRS has gotten better at catching this, but unfortunately, they're catching this on day 30, day 60, day 90. It's literally a pay first, ask questions system later. Okay. The biggest way we see this happen typically is through phone calls, texts, and emails. A lot of times these are threatening. So you may get a call from the IRS saying, hey, you did not pay your taxes last year. And if you don't do it right now on the phone, give us your credit card information, pay us in gift cards. I've seen that. You are going to jail. I know the IRS is probably not on our Christmas card list, but they're not that bad, okay? They're not just going to come out of the blue and arrest you. Same thing if you get a text. Sometimes it's the opposite, where they'll say, hey, exciting news. We owe you $20,000. We need your bank account information. Remember, the IRS will never contact you with these methods. Phone, text, email. IRS is almost can always contact you via postal mail. And if you're never sure about something, look up their number, look up your local IRS branch and call them directly. Don't use a number that you get in a text because that number could be fake. Look up the number, give them a call. But this is a common thing we see. Now, tax season just ended, so that season's over for a little while, and that'll probably die down. But we've got extensions in October. We've got other things happening fairly soon. It'll be April before you know it, and they'll be back at it again. How much are we worth? Okay. This is always an interesting one to me. If when we get together in person, we ask people this question, the answers range from, I think my identity is worth $1 million, which I like to hear people say that because they feels pretty good, right? I've heard people say, I think I'm only worth $1 or $2. And unfortunately, it's not much more than a couple bucks. We're worth about, the average identity sells for $12. That's a case of Old Milwaukee. That's kind of depressing to me. I like a cold beer on the weekend. I'd like to think I'm worth a little bit more than Old Milwaukee. And it's not that we're not worth anything. It's that there is so much volume out there right now. There's tons of stolen identities out there. As Betsy said in the beginning, we cannot prevent these companies from getting breached, right? There's things we can do to react to that. But when those companies get breached, there's really nothing we can do about it. But there's things we can do to protect ourselves. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What can we do to make ourselves safer? I am part of a group called InfraGuard. It's been super valuable to me. It's a partnership with the FBI. And one night we got to go out on the dark web. What is the dark web? So think of that iceberg graphic, which I know we've seen for lots of different things, right? As the internet. And the tip of the iceberg, the part that we all interact with all the time, is I'm going to call that the World Wide Web. This is where we go to check out our sports scores. We want to see what the weather is going to be, what's happening in the news, right? These are sites we log into all the time. Actually, we don't even log into them. We just go to them, right? We don't have to enter in a username and a password. The information's out there for everyone to see. Below there is another little bit lower level called the deep web. The deep web are sites that we do have to log into. These could be things like a medical portal. It could be an intranet site that you have to log into to access information for your company. Maybe you've got your bank site, for example. These are sites that require a username and a password to access. The information on those sites is not going to show up in a Google search. Big part of the internet. And the very bottom level there is what we call the dark web. This is where a lot of illegal activity happens. Things like child pornography, drug trafficking, and a lot of it is what we're going to be talking about today, the sale of stolen passwords, stolen identities. So when we met with the FBI, the first question we wondered was, well, why don't you guys just shut the dark web down? Why don't they just shut it down? Well, it's not that easy. The dark web is fully encrypted. Anybody can go out there and access it. Um, can we do so legally? You actually could. I could go out there legally. Any of you on this call today, you could go out there legally, but you kind of have to know what you're doing. It does require a special type of browser called TOR. And once you get out there, it's not really searchable. But a lot of people know how to go out there, and there are millions of people out there every day. So fortunately, we did have someone with the FBI who knew how to go out there. And I'm going to kind of show you what we got to see. This part's always a little bit scary. And if you were here with us like 6 or 8 years ago and we did this, we've got some different things to show you as well. So this is what we call a dark web marketplace. I think this looks an awful lot like an Etsy or an eBay, right? I'm going out there and just buying things. But instead of buying books or a bicycle or furniture or baseball cards, I am buying people's social security numbers. I'm buying their bank cards. I'm buying their credit cards, right? Some of these things sell for as little as $1. And there are literally millions of people out there looking at this information every single day. Here's a site that's a specialty store. This site sells ATM skimming devices. Again, I'm not that technical. I have no idea how to hack into an ATM machine, but I can go out here, buy one of these devices, attach it to or plug it into an ATM machine, and start stealing your data. So one advice on ATM machines, when I go to use them now, I always give it a little bit of a shake. Are there any loose parts? Does that number pad lift up and is it sitting on top of another number pad to try to capture my data? And if so, I don't use it. I let that bank know. It's never happened. I don't think it's ever happened, but that's what I would do. I would let that bank know, hey, I think there's something wrong with your ATM machine. Sites that sell, like I mentioned, there's a lot of drug trafficking out there. Here's a site that sells stolen credit cards. Now, they don't have my physical card. If somebody pickpocketed me on the street and they had my credit card, they're going to probably run down to the gas station and try to use it immediately. But again, you don't have to have the physical card. They have the data that allows us to use it. And you can see these cards are selling for as little as $40. This one I thought was really interesting. Here's a site that sells counterfeit money. Okay. And if I buy $1,600 worth of counterfeit bills, I can get those for only $800. That's a pretty good deal, right? Stolen Netflix accounts. In the winter, I don't think I could get through a cold winter without my Netflix account. Those sell for as little as $1. We talked about stolen passwords. You see a lot of those out here. Yahoo's had some breaches over the years, right? So I can go in here and buy someone's Yahoo account. And these things sell, fairly cheap. You can also see in the lower tab there's a feedback tab. They will leave feedback for each other. I bought this stolen Yahoo account. It was awesome. I got right in. I got access to their email. 5-star seller, right? So whenever you hear about these breaches, and unfortunately, there are so many breaches now, we don't even hear about every breach, but we do hear about some big ones. I'd always recommend going in if you have an account with that company and changing your password, even if your account looks okay, because it's possible that your account was part of the breach and they just haven't done anything with it yet. Sometimes these accounts don't wind up on the dark web for 24 hours, sometimes 24 months, anywhere in between. And if you haven't taken that action yet, you could become a victim. Here's a site that sells stolen services. Let's say I was in a feud with my neighbor, Bob, and I wanted to hack Bob's email. Again, I have no idea how to do that. I am not technical, but I don't need to be technical. I can hire a company on the dark web to go in and do it for me. And they can install viruses on people's machines. They can try to hack their phones, their computers. People are selling these services. Now, we also saw some pretty bizarre stuff out there as well. Here's a site that sold do-it-yourself home vasectomy kits. I know Father's Day is coming up. Maybe the dad that doesn't have everything yet, you can get him something like that. There's some weird stuff out there, okay? Um, but the dark web is being run extremely effectively and efficiently, so much so that US legitimate companies are now taking business practices from them because they do it so well. You will see things out there like we will guarantee our results for you. We will guarantee our products, our services. Well, how can they do that? If I go out on the dark web and let's say I buy a stolen credit card and I go to use it and that card has been blocked, as the buyer, what am I going to do? Am I going to then go in and to the police and say, hey, I bought this stolen card and it's not working. I want you to arrest the person that sold it to me. Of course not. At least I would hope not, right? I'm going to go back to the dark web and say, hey, you sold me a card that I can't use. And chances are they're going to either refund me my money or they're going to give me another stolen card for free because they don't want to get a quote bad reputation out there, right? They want me coming back to their store and making more purchases. I see things out there like 24/7 customer service. If I lose my satellite service over the weekend, good luck getting it till Monday, right? Free trials. We will hack 10,000 accounts for free and prove to you that we know what we're doing. We will get you results. And then this part is so bizarre to me. You will see words out there like honesty and integrity. We are hackers you can trust to do the bad thing. Work with us. We hired the best people. We will get you results, right? Very bizarre. Who are these people that are out there doing this? When I think of villains, this is what I think of, right? I think of people that wore masks, they're enshrouded in black. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, so the Cubs are not my favorite team, right? They're my arch enemies. Maybe you can substitute your own favorite enemy mascot in there. But the reality is that is not what these folks look like, okay? What they look like is this. These are actual cyber criminals on this page. And I think these look like everyday, normal people. They're people that I could be living next door to. They could be people that I go to church with. They could be people I walk by in the street and have no idea. It is not that classic image we have of the nerdy kid with tape between his glasses in his parents' basement, hunched over a computer. These people are extremely sociable. They know how to manipulate people. They're very good at that. And they are ruthless. They may not be violent per se, but they're extremely dangerous because they do not discriminate. They do not care what your sex is, what your religion is, what your wealth is. If they can steal $1,000 from you, they will happily do it. And they are heartless and ruthless when it comes to doing this. So we kind of covered who are the targets, kids, US taxpayers, right? That's blanket coverage. We kind of showed you what actually happens to your stuff once it winds out on the dark web, which is a little scary, and who's doing it. Now let's talk about how they're doing it and how we can protect ourselves. So we start recognizing these threats and then reacting to them properly. And the number one way this is done is through social engineering. Social engineering is where they use our emotions against us. We are not robots, okay? And even though I've been doing this for now 15 years, I have absolutely fallen for some of these things, including once happened in the last 2 years. I'll share later on because we're not robots and they know that. And they use our emotions to get us to do things we would normally never do. If somebody stopped me in the middle of the street and said, can I have your username and password for your email account? There is a 0% chance I'm going to give that to them. Same with any of you on this call. I know that, right? But what if somebody called you at your place of business and you work at a huge company and they said, hi, I'm Jared in IT. Someone's hacked into our systems. I need to shut your email account down or they're going to start taking your emails. I need your username and password so I can access it. Would I give that to them? There's a probably pretty good chance I would, right? Because I'm loyal to the company. They know that. They're not giving me any time to think. These things are almost always forcing you to take action immediately. And they're using my emotions about being scared, about wanting to help the company against me. And that's what we're going to show you today, or what some of these threats are. Some of these you may even have had, either if it happened to you, you experienced recently, or you're going to recognize. But if you can start recognizing these and then take a second to think, you're going to really start to shrink down your target size. So the number one method of social engineering is what they call phishing. And this is when it's done via email, which is really effective because you can send an email to 100,000 people, right? And just see everyone, and then everyone gets this what looks like to be an individual email. And that's often a clue that something is fake when they don't have your actual name in the contents of the email. But here's one that these are all real examples, either I've received or people have sent me over the years for PayPal, right? A lot of people use PayPal to pay for things. And this is classic social engineering because I'm being told that my account has been suspended. That is going to create anxiety. If I use PayPal to purchase a lot of things online or I use to pay certain bills, this is going to create anxiety for me. And I've been told my account's been suspended. And if I go to update my information, I can get it resolved. That's going to trigger relief, right? So there's a couple clues here that this might be fake. One is there's a couple weird wording and grammar things here. It says an error was detected in your informations instead of information. There's no period after temporarily. Anytime you see unusual wording or incorrect grammar, that can always be a clue that something is fake. But a lot of these emails I've seen now are perfectly worded and have no typos, perfect grammar. So that's not always an indicator, but it can be. And what they want me to do here is just click on that blue button that says update your information. And if I click on that, there's a chance it could try to launch a virus, but probably not. What's probably going to happen is I'm going to go to a fake website and I'm going to be asked to update my information, except I'm not on PayPal's website. I'm on a fake website and I'm actually giving them my account password information, my account number, my password, things like that. Things, again, I would never do if someone stopped me on the street, but now they put me in a very different circumstance. I need to get my PayPal account unlocked. Here's one I received at Focus Partners a few years ago. I have one credit card today. I have a Southwest Chase card. I don't use a debit card because you can always get refunds if you have stolen expenses on a credit card. And I happen to have a Chase card through Southwest. And I got this email. It got my attention immediately because it said my account is going to be discontinued and urgent action is required. Anytime you see words like that, you must act immediately. This is urgent. Stop what you're doing. We need you to fix this now. That's always kind of a warning sign. How urgent can something be if it's being sent to you via email, right? That's always a kind of to me, a little bit of a warning sign. The other thing I did is before I did anything, I started hovering over some of these links. And I started noticing that some of them weren't web links at all. And those of them that were web links were not taking me to chase.com. A web link can say anything. A web link can say fidelity.com, schwab.com, usbank.com, visa.com. But that doesn't mean it's going to take you there. So when I receive emails from unknown senders, I hover over those links. And even more than that, I usually open up a separate browser. If they want me to go to check out my chase.com site information, I go to that site myself. I don't click on the links. Now, we did this, some of our associates, they said, well, I thought we had antivirus software to prevent us from getting these types of emails. And we do. There's no viruses in this email, okay? They're just trying to get me to go to a fake website and put in my credentials. Now, a lot of companies are fortunate now they have sites that actually look for phishing sites, but at my home office here, I do not have that kind of software. That's enterprise level software. So even if you do have, and I'm guessing everyone in this call has that, some antivirus software, that's not necessarily going to stop an email like this from coming through, and it's not going to stop you from clicking on that link and then entering in information. So you have to be really careful. Like I mentioned, a lot of these they're using fear against us, trying to get us to act immediately, but not always. Sometimes it can be exciting, right? So in this case, I got an email from a friend of mine. He sent this over. He goes, hey, I know you did this presentation. I got a really good one the other day. I'm like, great. So he's a professor at St. Louis University. It's a small Jesuit college here in St. Louis. And he was getting a big raise. And he said he had to click on a document to access it. I go, that's great. You didn't fall for this. How'd you know it was fake? Was that logo looks kind of weird. He goes, it's not our main logo, but no, that logo's legit. I go, well, was it the email address? He goes, no, I don't know how they faked it, but that is our HR email address. I'm like, well, how did you know this thing was fake? He goes, well, if you read the contents of it, it says I'm getting a 12.5% raise. I'm pretty aware, I'm a pretty mediocre professor. There's no way I was getting a 12.5% raise. And I took one of his classes. He's more of a researcher than a teacher is what I would say. So he said, but again, you can see they want him to get excited. And again, it says, if you don't do this right away, your raise is going to be canceled. Kind of a little unusual, right? But you can see how someone might get excited and start taking action. Sometimes it's not always done through email. You could tell nerds came up with these terms, right? This is called smishing, simple messaging, or texting. So this one is not as good as some other ones I've seen. Unlike Betsy and her team, I am not an advisor, right? But I have learned over the years, do not do business with banks that cannot find your account number. That is a bad bank, okay? Although this bank is apparently open at 3:30 in the morning. So if you work the night shift, you could stop on home for the way from work, make your deposits, etc., right? Pretty weak attempt, but you know what? You send 10,000 of these texts out at 3:30 in the morning, someone's kind of half asleep. Oh, the bank needs my account number. I better get it over to them, right? It could happen. I love getting packages, and I'm the kind of person I order stuff and I forget about it if it doesn't come for a week, so I don't know what's there when I arrive home. And it's kind of like every day's Christmas, except sometimes it could be like dog food or air filters or whatever. Who knows, right? Um, but I've gotten messages like this before, like from UPS or even email saying, "Hey, we could not make this delivery. We don't have enough information." I got one that said the package was too big to deliver. You cannot imagine how excited I got at first. These are always going to be fake, though. And if you have any doubt, don't click on the link in your text or email. Go to UPS, go to FedEx's website, and try to figure out what's going on. Because these things are always fake. I also knew this one was fake because then you read the last sentence there. It says the U.S. Postal Team wishes me a wonderful day. I kind of knew there was zero chance of that because we've had a few run-ins over the years over some lost mail, so I kind of knew right away this one was not real. But here's another one they got me trying to get me excited, right? Hey, I just won $1,000 Walmart gift card. I've seen ones where you've won a lottery, right? I have not entered any contest at Walmart. There's no Walmart near my house. I've probably been to a Walmart twice in my life. There just aren't any close to me, right? Or like you win a prize, a contest. Did you even enter something in? And if I click on this link again, it's probably not going to be a virus. It's going to be some sort of website where they're going to say, we need to deposit this into your account. We need your account information. So again, be very wary of these. Sometimes they also combine this with what they call vishing, where they use phone and voice. This one's a little better than the bank that couldn't find my account number. Here, Wells Fargo texted somebody and said, your account has been locked. We need you to call us. Say, again, social engineering, right? This is going to trigger anxiety. Oh no, my account's been locked. I have some transactions I need to make today. So, but here's a number that someone's going to help me. So I'm going to call this number in the text. I'm going to get someone who's going to answer, hi, this is Jared at Wells Fargo. Yes, you did receive our text. Yes, I'm sorry, we did have to lock your account for security reasons. We just need to confirm a couple things and we can get it unlocked for you. I provide them my account number, my password. I hear typing in the background. They say, yes, we apologize. You're good to go. Your account's been locked. Can I do anything else to assist you today? I say no. I go and I check my account. It's unlocked, but it was never locked in the first place. Anytime you get text saying like someone cannot find your password, your account number, via a pop-up window, a text, that's always a big red flag. But again, you can see how this could be effective. And then this one I've seen a lot. I've had this happen to me. A few years ago, I was getting ready to set a fantasy football lineup, and I was told I got a flashing screen and my computer had a virus. I'm like, oh no, I've got to get this fixed. I've got to set my lineup, which was a waste of time. I was in last place. I'd be better off if somebody else set my lineup. But I clicked quarantine the virus. And then as soon as I clicked on it, I'm like, oh no, why did I do that? And sure enough, I wound up launching some viruses because it was fake. So be really careful about these. No company knows if you have a virus. And quite frankly, companies don't care. If you get a phone call from Microsoft saying that they've detected a virus on your machine, that is not real, okay? I used to work in our IT department. We have had trouble tickets over with Microsoft for years. Microsoft is never, ever going to call you. Even when you need them to call you, they're not going to call you. So when you see these messages, you get these phone calls, hang up, close it. If you're concerned that something is wrong with your computer, take it to someone you know. Take it to a brick and mortar store, Geek Squad, something like that. Or if you have a friend that knows how to work in these. Or you can do what my mom did several years ago, where mom got one of these phone calls. And my mom is really bad with technology. Okay. She's just terrible at it. But she kind of wound up punking them unintentionally because they wanted her to get a file off of her desktop. She thought they meant the physical desk she was sitting at. She had them on the phone for 2 hours. They got absolutely nowhere with her. She was not able to do anything that they asked, and they got so angry at her, they hung up on her without getting anything. So that's one way you could handle it. I would say just go ahead and hang up though. Those are always going to be fake. What they're really trying to do is get access to your computer. And once they get in, they can do lots of things. 2 years ago, back during the pandemic, this is the show I got addicted to, Judge Judy. I'd never seen it, I'd heard of it, but I'd never watched it before. And I DVR it every single day still. And us Judy fans, we call these Judaisms. These are things that she frequently says that I really love. My favorite one is beauty fades, dumb is forever. I love that one. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. I caught my nephew cheating at Battleship and he tripped himself up, and I used this one on him. And this one really applies to what we're talking about today, though. If something doesn't make sense, it isn't true. Okay. If you have that gut feeling, you get that text, that email, that phone call, and it doesn't feel right, stop and think. Don't react because they want you to do that. They're going to pressure you into taking action. I got a phone. I mentioned I've been doing this for 15 years, but I am just as likely to fall for these things. I was having a big Christmas party, holiday party in my house in December on a Saturday evening. I got a phone call from the electric company that there was a problem with my bill and they were shutting off my electric in the next 30 minutes if I did not get it taken care of. Did that person who called me know I was having a big party? Probably not. It was a happy coincidence. But I wasn't, I was rushing around getting things ready. I'm like, oh my gosh. They go, listen, it's only $100 and you can get it taken care of. So I was getting ready to pay it. And somebody else was there and heard me talking on the phone and said, what are you doing? Don't you speak about this stuff? I go, yeah, we're talking about it. They go, there's no way that's real. And once I stopped and thought about it, I'm like, why would the electric company, one, call me on a Saturday night, two, not give me a bunch of notices and just say they're going to turn off my electric? Totally fake. And it was. I have a friend that works at the local gas company here. Says, you know how many notices we have to send before we actually shut someone's gas off? It's like 30. It's a year and a half process. It's just not going to happen. So again, stop and think. Does this feel right? Does this sound right? Don't just take action. Hey, we're going to do a fun little activity with you guys today. Sometimes we do this when we're in person, but we can do it online as well. This is called the Mandela effect. It was named by a researcher who determined that when she asked people what happened to Nelson Mandela, she got two different answers. One group of people said he went to prison in South Africa during apartheid and died there a hero. Another group said he went to prison, was later released and became president of South Africa. And the one that thought he went to prison and died was about 70%, and the other group was 30%. The second group was the one that was right. So why did these two groups of people have totally different memories of this? She named this effect after him. Here's a quick example of this, the movie Snow White. Everyone has seen this movie. It's almost 100 years. I think it came out in 1934, so it's getting near 100 years old. We've all seen it as kids or as adults with our kids. It's a pretty good movie, right? What does the evil queen say here? And if you're saying it out loud, I think you're saying what I say. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Except if you go back and watch the movie, only 5% of people know that it's actually magic mirror on the wall, not mirror, mirror on the wall. This is what we call Mandela effect. So I'm going to show you 5 famous logos. You can use your chat function if you want to play along and type in your answer. When we get together in person, we have everyone stand up, and as soon as they miss one, they have to sit down. And we think we've done this now with about 3,000 people, and I think we've only had 8 people left standing at the end. These are very common things you see every day. These are not trick questions. Kit Kat, top 5 selling candy bar. Which is the right logo? Is it number 1 where Kit Kat is hyphenated? Or is it number 2 where Kit Kat is not hyphenated? Is it 1 or 2? If you want to play along, you can type in your answer of which you think is the correct one. And if you typed in 1, we'd ask you to sit down right now. Kit Kat is not hyphenated. Okay, that was the easy one. These get a little tougher. I still love Looney Tunes. I think they're funnier when you're an adult than when you're a kid, right? But what is the right way? How is Looney Tunes logo spelled? Is it Tunes or is it Toons? We've all seen these cartoons probably hundreds of times. What is the correct spelling for Looney Tunes? And it is Tunes. So if you said Toons, you'd be sitting down now. This is the worst game ever invented, Monopoly. Rich Uncle Pennybags, okay? Does the Monopoly Man logo, does he not have a monocle like number 1? Or does he have a monocle like number 2? Good chance everyone's sitting down now. I think this is classic Mandela effect. Monopoly is about money, right? We associate that guy with one monocle as wealth. I promise you, people have one guy tried to physically fight me at an event over this. I said, I promise you, when you go home and look at your Monopoly board, you'll see I'm right. And he did send me an email the next day apologizing. Rochicle Penny Bags does not have a monocle. Fruit of the Loom logo, right? T-shirts and underwear. We've all seen this logo. These are two very different logos. Does the Fruit of the Loom logo not have a cornucopia, or does have a cornucopia? Okay. And the answer is, come on. Believe it or not, it does not have a cornucopia. A lot of people also said there's no way this is right. I promise you it is. Finally, Ford. If anyone's still left standing, I'd be curious, but I kind of doubt it. But you never know. We've all owned a Ford, seen a Ford, right? We've walked by Fords. What's the right logo? Does the F on the Ford have that little pigtail going through the F, or does the F on the Ford logo have a straight line? This one always throws people. We did an event in Oklahoma City with 300 people. I used to have this one first, and all 300 people missed it. I think it's because we think of Ford as tough and macho. And how could Ford have that cute little pigtail going through there? But I promise you it does. Okay. So what's the point of that activity? The point is, if we cannot recognize things that we see every day, how are we going to recognize fake websites? Because a lot of people say, I'll know it when I see it. I'd say you probably won't. And these fake websites, they will have differences, but they're going to be close enough. And that's why don't click on links from unknown senders unless you're 100% positive. And it's especially from companies. Again, I just open up a separate browser and then I go to that website. Okay. So again, if you could do these things we just talked about, stopping, thinking about these things before you do anything, you've already shrunk your target size way down. You don't have to go out and buy anything to do this, right? We're just kind of using our gut instincts a little bit, like Judge Judy said, if it doesn't feel right, and not letting our eyes play tricks on us. The other thing, and this is the thing we all struggle with, right, is having good passwords, right? This is something I saw predictions 10 years ago that passwords would be gone. It's still pretty much the way we access websites. Unfortunately, 95% of people have horrible passwords. You have passwords made out of straw. If you've got a really good, strong password management system, you've got a brick house. And the fraudsters are not going to try to get in because there's so many straw houses out there. And the reason we know that is because these are the lists from the last 4 years of the most common passwords. These are not the best passwords. These are the most common. And if you see your password on here, don't raise your hand. Just one of the assignments is when this webinar is over, you're going to go in and change it, right? You can see these passwords don't change a whole lot too, the most common ones. They're all super easy to type and they're super easy to remember. And that's why people use them. And the fraudsters know that. So if they're trying to hack your password, they will use what they call credential stuffing software, where they can try to jam in 5,000 passwords a minute. And I guarantee these 10 are on there. And if they can get a hit quickly, bingo. If they can after a while, they're going to move on to somebody else. This might be the only real technical thing we'll talk about today is password management software. This is something I'd recommend. There's a lot of different ones out there. We will send some follow-up information on these. Password management software allows you to store all your passwords in one location. I use Dashlane. These are all good, where it creates my passwords for me. I don't even know what my passwords are today. I know my password to Dashlane. Some people worry, well, what if these get hacked? Well, never say never, but let's say Dashlane, for example, got hacked. If someone was able to hack Dashlane and got a hold of my password, all my passwords are encrypted on a separate server in Dashlane. And if they got my password in Dashlane and tried to use it, it would send a 6-digit code to my phone. So they'd have to get my password to Dashlane. They'd have to have my physical phone. They'd have to know the password to get it in my phone, and then my password to Dashlane. I'd say the odds of that, while not 0%, are pretty minute, right? Versus if I'm storing my passwords on an Excel sheet and I lose that, or someone can easily hack that, I'm storing in a piece of paper and that gets physically stolen or lost in a fire, I've lost all my passwords. And we all fall into these bad habits. I know I do. One of the things I do every month is I look at a scorecard of my passwords and it says, hey, you're reusing this password. You need to change it, things like that. All these services are similar. I know LastPass even offers the ability to will your passwords upon death, which could be really helpful if you're really good at password management, that's something you may want to do. Okay, we're kind of in the home stretch here. So identity theft, how do you prevent it? I was a journalism major. That first response, cross your fingers, that's how I did math exams in college, right? That's how journalists do it, right? I can tell you it doesn't work. The idea that you're never going to be a victim of identity theft is pretty minute. A better response would be something like a LifeLock or other credit monitoring services. These are not bad. The problem I have with them is that they are very reactive. They're going to let you know, hey, someone opened credit in your name. Was it you? And if it wasn't, then you're going to take action. And it's better than nothing, right? It's giving you that notice, but it's not going to stop it. The best response is to do a credit freeze. Freeze your credit. Because if you do that, no one is going to be able to access your credit. In fact, if you need them to, you're going to do it and unfreeze it. There is no cost doing this anymore like there used to be. So I froze my credit 2 years ago. I tried to open up a Amazon credit card. I was going to finally get a second credit card. And 2 weeks later in the mail, I got a notice that I had been denied my application. Why? They couldn't access my credit because it was frozen. And that's exactly what should have happened. It worked exactly like it should have. I forgot to unfreeze it. So we'll send out some instructions on this. If you ever need to unfreeze it, it's real simple. Let's say you're going to buy a new car. You can find out from the dealership, who do you work with? You'll unfreeze it for 24 hours and it'll automatically refreeze. Also recommend two-factor authentication. This is where you set up, if in addition to your password, if you're on a new device or every time you log in, it's going to send a 4-digit, 6-digit code to your phone. That way, if someone ever does steal your password, they're not going to be able to get into your account. The only bad thing about two-factor is it's never set by default. So if you want to do this with a custodian, with social media sites, you have to go and actually take action. We will send some instructions how to do that. It's really easy, but it's never something you're automatically defaulted into. And then when you do two-factor and you get these notices, never read these off on the phone. Sometimes when a hacker is able to get into your email and they need to get the two-factor piece, they'll trigger the two-factor, call you and say, hi, I'm with Visa, I'm with Vantage Credit Union. We're resetting your account. I need you to we just send you a 6-digit code. And a lot of companies now will say that in their message back. Do not read this number. We will never ask you for it. This is for you to authenticate. A couple scams in the news right now we want to talk about. One is check washing. This really isn't even really with technology, but this is really rampant. We want to talk about it for a minute. What's happening is bad guys and gals are using chemicals. They're going through mail, they're finding checks, and they're using a chemical to erase the who you're paying a check to and the amount. And they'll replace, electrical contracting with, Jennifer Smith. And now you're paying Jennifer Smith instead of electrical contracting. Or instead of sending in a check to the IRS, now you're paying, Bob Johnson, right? So there's a simple, easy way you can get around this. Use gel ink pens. Gel ink is impervious to this chemical. And also now I actually drop my checks off at the post office branch. They're even going through those little postal boxes on street corners. And I try to remember always use a gel ink pen, which you can get anywhere, Amazon, your store. It's the ballpoint ink that chemical works on. The other big thing we want to talk briefly here is we all see this happening all the time is AI. AI is an awesome tool. I use it a lot in my personal life, somewhat in my work life as well. And I need help like creating an agenda, things like that. But the bad people out there, the villains are out there using this as well. And they're using it very effectively. They can imitate people's voices, including people that you know. Sometimes they're even doing video. So there's a simple way around this. You and your family should come up with, and this is what the FBI has been recommending, come up with a verbal password or phrase. And unlike a password that you have to type in, it does not have to be uppercase, lowercase numbers. Our family, we agreed, ours has to do with what is the best baseball game we ever went to. And we don't even have to get it exact. It just needs to be close. Do we use it every time we talk to each other? We don't. But if somebody ever asks something that seems a little bit weird, which we're a weird family, so it happens, or somebody has a request for money, we're going to ask this question. And it finally actually worked. And I told you about how my mom was so bad at technology. My mom got a call from my niece who seemed she could help her out. She needed to switch classes, which, by the way, was not unusual for her. She switches classes a lot at Central Missouri State. And she said, mom and dad aren't going to be real thrilled. And my mom says it sounded just like her. But when she asked her for the family, she goes, what's the greatest game we ever went and saw? There was a long pause. And she said, Grandma, I don't have time for this today. We all know what it is. She goes, no, come on, just tell me. And she won it. And my mom still almost gave her the money, but she hung up, called her, and she says, I have no idea what you're talking about. I was not just talking to you. So it worked. And I'm like so proud of my mom for actually doing what we had talked about. And my mom said, wow, that was scary because it sure sounded like her. Someone can get a 5-second clip of you on the internet. They can create your voices now. But again, super low tech solution. Just agree with what is your family's password going to be. Real quick example of how this hurt a company. Company in Hong Kong, guy who was really high up in their finance department got onto a Zoom call or something like Zoom. And he was on a call with the CFO and some other executives. And the CFO said, listen, I know this is unusual and it's against our company policy normally, but I need you to send a series of $5 million payments to this company that we're going to be purchasing. And you cannot tell anybody about this. We cannot have this get leaked. And he thought it was weird, but he said, I saw the CEO talking to me. Sent it out. The whole thing was deep faked. The video was deep faked. The voices were deep faked. Flip side of this, I read an article last year about Porsche car company. They had something similar happen, but they did have a verbal passphrase. And the CEO asked the CFO, what is our verbal passphrase? And the guy could not come up with it. And so he did not send out like this $1 million wire. And sure enough, it was faked. So this is a super non-tech way to help make yourself safer. A couple of things we're going to be sending you, Elevate will be sending out later to you is one, just a 24-hour checklist. These are things we talked about today that you can do in the next 24 hours. Simple, easy things. One of those things we didn't talk about a whole lot was keeping your devices updated. When you get that message that, hey, it's time to update your phone, it's okay if you wait till later that night. If you're in the middle of a game of solitaire or a business meeting, yeah, you can wait. But don't keep postponing it because what they're probably patching is a security breach of some sort. Also, we're going to send you a never ever list. I keep this taped to my fridge because I have told you I have fallen for some of these things, right? These are just simple reminders. Hey, the IRS is never going to call you. No one knows if your computer has a virus. Don't reuse the same passwords. Never give access to your computer to anybody. Don't take online quizzes. I see this on Facebook a lot. Online quizzes like, what was the best concert you ever went to? Who's your number one favorite celebrity? What they're really doing is trying to gather up information about what might your security answers be. Don't share your vacation plans on social media. I've seen people, friends of mine do this, and I'll call them later. I'm like, hey, I saw your post that you're going to Italy for 2 weeks. Sounds awesome. Take that post down. Don't announce my home's going to be empty for the next 2 weeks. Okay. And, don't respond to pressure or threats from emails, phone calls, texts. Last thing, and then I turn it back over to Betsy. 2 things that all scams have in common. I don't care if it's the king of Nigeria asking for $1 million, and the reason you still see those is it does work. Or some of these scams are really sophisticated and clever, but they all have 2 things in common. One, at some point you'll get asked for money, and when you're asked for money, it's going to be urgent. Like your grandkid calls in the middle of the night and they're in jail, they've been injured, they need your help. 2, you'll get asked personal information, an account number, a credit card number, something like that, your social security number. These are red flags. Your antenna should go up right away. I've gotten to know Betsy a little bit from doing these events, and I can tell you that Elevate and their partner Focus does a lot of things to protect you. We've got awesome, technology. We go through security training every year, things like that. But unfortunately, nobody can stop you from taking that phone call and giving out information. The best person to stop it is you, and you can do it. I promise you. If you do the things that we talked about today, you're going to shrink your target size way down. And in a way, you're kind of an expert now. You can share these same things we talked about with your family and friends. Because as you saw today, you don't need to be that technical smart to do this stuff. And there's nothing magical about it. I'm not a magician, right? You can do these things. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Betsy. If we have any questions, we'll take a couple. And then again, you will be receiving a follow-up information with a lot of the things we talked about today and some supporting content.
Thank you so much, Jared. That was very informative, and it is amazing how much has changed in the last 5 or 6 years since we did this webinar with you. The whole artificial intelligence is very scary what can happen.
It is, but it's not going away, and we just have to kind of start fighting back a little bit.
Scary to think if we revisit this in 5 years, what we'll be facing. Could you talk a little bit about phone calls? Because we, have been seeing recently, I've been seeing, I know a lot of my family have been seeing a lot of phone calls coming in from your area code, and it makes you think this must be somebody I know, but it's not. And so, how are they doing that? And then also, like, if all of a sudden I see something on my phone and it looks like it's from somebody I know calling, how are they faking that it's my sister calling me, but it's not really her?
Yeah, so they have software they can use. Like caller ID used to be really effective for this, right? Like you were saying, like, hey, I know this number. It's my sister, right? But now they can use software to fake any number. So that number that looks like it's coming from your area code could be coming from halfway around the world, could be coming from another state. So again, we just have to be really careful there. Um, I don't typically even answer my phone from numbers I don't recognize. I figure if it's something that's really important, they're going to leave a message. And then now, like I said, with AI, but then now they can even imitate voices. So when my dad calls me, I know my dad's voice. And if he's calling me and saying, hey, did you watch that game the other night? I don't ask him our security question because we're just talking about stuff, right? But if my dad said, oh, by the way, me and your mom are going to go to Europe, and would you mind loaning us a couple $1,000? If they really needed that, yeah, I would. But I'm going to use our family password then, right? And let's see what happens. And again, with the family password thing, make it kind of fun. I have another friend, his family's is around what is grandma doing today? And the answer doesn't have to be exact, but it better be about hippopotamuses. Their grandma is a huge fan. So they say it better be grandma's at the zoo watching hippos. She's watching a documentary on hippos. She's reading a book about hippos. They kind of laugh about it. And they said they don't use it all the time either, but once in a while they've had to use it. And fortunately, everyone's always known the answer. Make it something out of pocket. Don't make it what street address did we grow up on? Things that someone could actually get on their own. Make it something that's unique and fun.
Okay. And then when you find that your phone number has been given out to the dark web because you are getting unbelievable amounts of spam calls, what do you do? Is there a way to set your phone to block them, or is it better to just not answer them? Eventually it'll stop, or do you actually need to change your phone number?
Changing a phone number is a big deal. So I would try two different things. One is you can block those individual numbers. A lot of times, though, they'll just call from another number. And then, yes, I would not answer those calls. Sometimes people say, I'm going to call, answer, and mess with them. Well, the problem with that is now they know you exist. Um, I would also if your state has like a no call list, you can try that. But a lot of these people aren't going to pay attention to those. So I get a lot more than I used to. I probably get about 10 a day. I call them, so you can set up spam filtering on your phone where it will let you know, hey, we think this is a spam call. I always let those go. Once in a while, they'll leave a voicemail like, I owe money from a student loan, but I don't. I paid my student loans off. Or they're calling to help me vote, things like that. Just ignore it, you know. But
Okay.
yeah, those are things you can try to do. One thing we can also mention to Betsy that's been coming up lately, I've had questions about is those ads you hear about someone can steal your house, like, deed protection, things like that. If that's really keeping you up at night, you could purchase it, but I wouldn't recommend it. No one's going to be able to steal your house. If they do, can someone try to file a deed in the name of your house using fake information? They actually could, but it's not going to hold up in court because they're going to have to do it fraudulently. And a lot of these ads I hear, they're real threatening, like you could lose your home, and it's just not going to happen. So don't feel like you need to go out and do stuff like that. If someone ever did that, yeah, go to court with them. They're not going to show up because they got it fraudulently.
Interesting. Wow. I've not heard that one. That is scary. Well, we really thank you again for all your help with this and for the information. We'll be looking forward to receiving your follow up that we can send out to everybody with the tips to do in the next 24 hours. And we'll try to get you back here with us if you're willing, sometime
Absolutely.
before the next 5 years. We've loved having you, and you're always a wealth of information. We're just very thankful for our partnership with Focus.
Well, thank you for letting me speak to your clients. I hope everyone took away a few things that they can do today. And if they did, you're going to make yourself safer.
Thank you. And if you're watching or listening today and you realize later that you had a question, you can send it to me at marketing@elevate-wealth.com. And I'll make sure that Jared or one of our advisors gets that answered for you. And then if you visit our YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and look for Elevate Wealth. And you will see that we've been talking about cybersecurity all month long with our short 2 or 3 minute long videos. And we will also be posting a link to this video there later today, so you can share it with all your friends and family that you're worried about falling for scams. Thank you so much, Jared, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And we will see you next month for our next webinar focused on retirement spend down strategies with our CEO, Deanne Rosso. We'll see you then. Thank you so much.
Thanks.